All right, I have a problem with this Kenmore 70 series. If you have this dryer, um, you will have a problem where you can't buy parts anymore. Right now, what I have, this is the original switch that came with the dryer. I've already replaced this with that switch, but I'm going to use this to show what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to wire a switch to this. First, I'll show you what goes wrong with these. Okay, keep this in mind. The last cycle that you used, if you usually use high heat time to dry, look at where the line is. It goes right here. That's how you want this face to be clocked. If you take this face off, you have to make sure the gear in there is turned to the last thing that you used, or it won't work correctly. Okay. The switch, and I have it unplugged. Okay. Unplug your dryer, test it. What I do is turn on the dryer and push the button. I go ahead and turn this up and give it 5-10 minutes. Doesn't really matter. This thing will still tick. It doesn't mean it has power to it. This thing ticks automatically. It's a timer, just like an egg timer. Over here, the switch, you're going to push the momentary push button switch. Make sure that if there is any power within this thing, a capacitor, that you're killing it out. And then you still want to be careful, and you want to test it with a tester to see if there's any power at all. Turn it over to alternating current, because it's not direct current. Alternating current, 250. And then for the ohms, change over to ohm meter down here, and I go ahead and put it to, let's see, X10 on the ohms, so it'll pick up any ohms, so that you can test the parts using ohms. The battery in here, it uses a fuse too. Fuse in a battery. If you have to change that, you take this screw off the back of the tester, change the fuse out. So it's kind of a problem. I called Sears Parts Direct, and I looked on their online, and both of them gave me the same answer. They no longer manufacture the timer for this dryer. They want to tell me, well, the dryer is 20 years old. I understand that, but you should actually support the people that bought the dryer from you with at least parts, because this would only be like $100 and something. A new dryer would be about $300 or $400, and if that's the only thing wrong with it, there's no reason I'm replacing the whole dryer. So I don't know if I can even get one of these online. I've looked and I couldn't find it, because this number happens to be, I'll read it out, 397-6583. Part number 397-6583. And the box for the last one I even got, right here, 397-6583. So for this 70 series Kenmore, they no longer support you. So I need a dryer, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. First, I'll show you the problem, which is how I know this is what I need to do. Okay, so I'm going to take this knob off, because in a minute I'll be behind it, and I'll take it off. I want to show the wiring to it, but before I do, I want to show you the old one, because it's exactly the same problem that happens on these. Let me get this right. Yeah, okay. So this is up and down like it's mounted in the back. What happens is, it's always these two contacts. I took the screws out. I'm gonna take this plate off, show the inside, because it's this bottom contact here that's burnt. I'll get some light on it. Okay, this contact burns out. It's supposed to tap against that one to make contact, and there's like a little rivet thing on it. This side is intact over here, right there. Okay, let's get this. These two contacts are fine. They're not burnt out. They work well. This side over here is burnt out. It's gone. I have to show less light to show it. It's gone because it's burnt out. The other one is not as corroded. What you can do, if it's not that burnt, is you can use a wire brush, brass wire brush, and you can brush those contacts once you've disconnected everything and get it a little bit cleaner. But you can see this one here is completely, that metal's completely broken off. Okay. That contact no longer has a brass button on it, no longer touches. So the problem. Okay, so since the only contact that doesn't work is the contact from this to this, what I need to do is find a way to make contact between this single pin, which has nothing else on it except for this, and this middle pin, which is connected back here also. So in order to isolate this problem, I'm not even going to plug this up. I'm going to run that wire straight to a switch, and a wire from that switch to this pin right here. This extra pin, because there's one that does it here. So that whenever I need it to work, and it's supposed to work, and it's not heating up because it tells the heating element not to, I'll be able to hit a switch. Now I'll show you my switch. It needs to be strong enough to carry that kind of current. It's not just a small switch, it's a wall switch. It's exactly like what you would have in your home to turn on your lights. So here's the box I'm using. It's $1.10 from Home Depot. It's got pop-out sides, and it's got two holes here that are not completely pushed out yet. That one and that one, so that I can drill through, and I'm gonna mount it right up here. And I will have on top of the dryer, I'll have that box. I'll have this mounted. I'll have a flat plate cover on top of it. And in the back, for the wires to come through, on the flat sheet of metal, the back cover back here, I'm going to cut out for this to go back there and for the wires to come out. But in the meantime, just to show proof of concept, and because they just pull right off of this, I can run it anywhere I want right now. This will be screwed onto the posts, and I will also run the ground. These are the two posts. This is the ground in case of an event. I'll run this ground to the chassis, this little unused ground post right here, with a new one of these, which this is the old one that burned up, okay, that I just cut off, and it was corroded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, the one I put back there was gold plated. It just happens to be what I had. This is what I used on the other one, but I'm not going to use this one on this one. What I will use, and I also have one of these in case I need it. You can get these from a car stereo place. If you want to add, I'm not sure if you can see this. If you need to add one, you can put this on here, and then you have two, so you can split it. If you have a timer that doesn't have a splitter, you could use one of these. Now, that's gold plated. So what I have to do is I have to run the exact same gauge of wire for both sides. This is 12 gauge. This is 12 gauge ground. This is 12 gauge hot. And because of my limited ground, I may wind up using hot wire. Just, it's red, it doesn't really matter. I'll have to see how much of this I have left to use as the emergency ground for this side. And I'm going to run this to that chassis. So, if you have this problem, this is what you really want. These are 12 to 10 connectors of the type I just showed you, and I may wind up removing the plastic, so if it gets hot they won't melt. Don't think there'll be any type of a short anymore, but these burn out the exact same way, both of them. Leaves me in a pinch, and they don't have parts anymore, so at this point I'm making my own parts. I'm not suggesting you do this at home. Don't ever do this. Never do this. I'm not responsible for anything that might happen if you tried to do something like this. However, this switch, guaranteed, has got to be stronger than these little brass contacts in here that have actually burned up. They have to be. It has to be better than this contact touching and making sparks. And it was at the point where, while it was mounted, I could see in here it looked like plasma or some kind of LED light in there, because it was starting to have barely any contact. Now it wasn't this one. This one was completely shot and blew the fuse and everything else. It was that one. So that one I have to isolate. So keeping that in mind, this is up and down. It's the bottom left pin on the rear that is the single, and it's this middle one, and the bottom left one, this all burn up. So from the middle of this, if you're looking at it from behind, and I'll show the back one, it'll be this bottom left and this middle one that have to have a switch run to them. So you run this to one side of the switch, that switch, this to one side of that switch, and nothing's plugged in here anymore, so you don't have to worry about if this touches it getting half contact or causing problems anymore. There'll be nothing over here connected to it. You don't want to connect nothing to this anymore. You're going to run the wire straight to that switch that was here, and then a wire over to here, and it needs to be the same length and the same gauge, as close to the same length as you can get it in the same gauge. I could, if I cut a hole in here, there's a piece of metal strip across here, that's a problem to strengthen it. And if I drill a hole here, it's through metal. So just for now, just to test it until such time as I can cut the plate in the back and put this box in the back, I'm going to drill a hole in this plastic on this end over here, straight through the end, and straight through the end, 2 holes for each independent wire. It's plastic, it'll isolate it, and then it will come up and through here, and I will put this as close to over here as I can, and I will have black plastic wire shielding. It's not going to make much difference, and then it'll go in through the end hole on the other end and go to that switch. And so what I will do when I need to use the dryers, I'll turn it on, hit the button over here, and the blower motor works, and everything will work except for the heat, and the only contact it won't be making is on that timer in there. And then I will turn the switch on and it will work, and then when the cycle's done, I will turn the switch off, and that'll be that. So I've got sheet metal screws also to hold this to it. Right. This was $1 a bag. All of this, that box, this switch, this box, these screws, these connectors, and this wall cover plate, total $12 at Home Depot. I already had the wire, which was from an auto parts store, 12 gauge. So you're talking less than $20. I'm going to show the back of this thing. Pull the wire off of it. Let's give that a go. I won't be able to show all my work. I can tell you what I'm doing so that you see the back. the wiring here, the bottom left is the power line, the main power wire going in. This middle one is ground. So it's ground to that blue. So the top blue one being hot, this middle one being the ground, bottom one positive. I could make my own switch, a different type, and put it off the back, but I wanted to make sure that I'd remember to hit the switch. So I am going to mount it up here ridiculously high, as far as it's not going to be flush, but that's so I remember to turn it off every time. This is until I can find a used one. This is so I'll have a dryer. So something else that I have spares for are these. Usually with this back cover off, by the way, you want to cover it back up, but usually there's a kit that replaces this, which is a sensor to see if the heating element is even working. It's supposed to turn on the blower motor, and this down here is part of that kit, and then this fuse over here is part of that kit. Up under it, that sensor, that fuse, that switch, the heating element can go out in here. You have to take a couple of sheet metal screws out and then pull it down to check to see if there's any problem with that. Here's the sheet metal screws. This one right here, one on the other side, and then you just pull this thing down, you take it out, and you can see if it's burnt. You can see if it's working by looking through this peephole up top. While you're working on it, it'll get red hot. You'll know immediately that it's working. And that's the other sensor. There's a kit for probably about $30 that includes those sensors, and then the fuse is separate down here. Buy it separate usually, but if you're lucky, it'll just be this one or this one, and you'll wind up with spare parts because you'll buy the kit with all three. There is a fuse here, haven't had any problem out of it, and this thing was about red hot and burning. It was a problem, so there will be no more contact in there. The only contact will be inside the switch box up top. So turn this. Got to get to work on this. I'll make another part of this video. Hope this was helpful. If you have this dryer, they left you high and dry on parts. You can wire this. If you run a wire, like I said, from that pin to that pin, you want to disconnect. I believe that's the blue one. Let me make double sure. That's the one. It's on the, let's see. Yeah, the bottom and the middle. So then it would be the black and the red right here. So it's where the positive feeds into that one. So I believe it is the main power wire. I'll be running the main power wire to a box, to a switch. That's the only answer I have. And I don't want to run it down there where that contact is, or it won't make good contact anymore. I'll put in a part 2 and we'll see how this works.